Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mini Scroll, the daily internet culture podcast bringing you the biggest stories from social media, the creator economy, and the digital space every Monday through Thursday. I'm your host, Lauren Meisner, the founder of the youth digital media brand, Centennial World. Welcome back to Mini Scroll, everyone. Happy Monday. Okay. I have to let you guys know that next week, unfortunately, there is going to be no podcast. There will be no mini scroll next week. I'm so sorry. But I was offered a very exciting professional opportunity. I am going to be speaking at a big international tech conference about the future of media consumption. I'm so excited. It was an opportunity that honestly I just could not turn down. There were a lot of factors that went into play if I wanted to, leave the business for a week, attend this specific conference, all of that. But honestly, it's a big stepping stone for me to a bigger goal that I have at the end of the year with essentially like the same conference, but like their flagship. So I'll tell you guys a little bit more about that probably tomorrow. I'm just working out some final details. Like I don't want to jinx anything. So yes, I will be away all of next week doing some founder shit. And I'm really excited. It's a huge opportunity for my career. And like I said, kind of a stepping stone to this like really big dream that I have that possibly could happen at the end of the year if I do this one. Basically. Okay, the first story that I have for you guys is I'm going to be covering the Wishbone Kitchen versus Bon Appetit drama going down. So foodie influencer Meredith Hayden, who goes by Wishbone Kitchen on socials, is claiming that Bon Appetit's new dinner party series has too many coincidences or like similarities to her own very similar dinner party series. So for anyone that doesn't know, Meredith rose to viral fame after sharing content of herself working as a private chef in the Hamptons. I'm sure you guys have seen her TikToks. Like she was so viral for a couple of years there, and she has since built herself like quite a little empire off the back of that. Bon Appetit, which is a food publication by Condé Nast, they have a huge digital audience on socials and YouTube. And Bon Appetit, especially the YouTube channel, was really popular around like 2020, especially when we were all in lockdown and everybody was like cooking rogue shit for themselves and like trying different recipes and stuff. But the publication faced a massive scandal around this same time. So this is an excerpt from the Michigan Daily. Quote, "Everything came crashing down in early June. A picture of Bon Appetit's then editor-in-chief, Adam Rappaport, in brown face surfaced on Twitter, which opened an enormous can of worms not only about his conduct at Bon Appetit, but also about the way people of color were being treated on the channel. So while El Whaley was the first of the test kitchen chefs to reveal an incredible pay disparity between white employees and employees of color. Although she was quickly becoming one of the most popular chefs on the channel, she had not been compensated for any of her video appearances and was making significantly less than white contributors. Things spiraled from there. Rappaport resigned. Most white test kitchen chefs publicly vowed not to appear in Bon Appetit videos until chefs of color were fairly compensated. And some, including El Whaley, left the company outright. So despite some changes made at the publication since, Bon Appetit has understandably struggled to bounce back reputationally, but now they are under fire again with this new Dinner with Friends series after being called out on TikTok by Meredith for allegedly copying her name.
So Bon Appetit launched a new video series today based on dinner parties. And guess what it's called? Now, in case you're new here, Dinner with Friends is the name of my dinner party video series that I launched on YouTube in January 2024. It is self-directed, self-produced, and self-shot most of the time. Now, I'm not gonna accuse them of copying me because I'm not stupid. I know that the phrase Dinner with Friends is not like a revolutionary title, but they should have done some due diligence and at least given it a Google to make sure that title wasn't already spoken for. Up until a few weeks ago, Pink and Red was Wishbone Kitchen and Dinner with Friends branding. I feel like they could have chose any other color combination.
And then in a statement to The Cut, Meredith said, "The entire situation is extremely disheartening and just another example of traditional media's unwillingness to properly embrace, acknowledge, and credit digital creators." I agree with that, Meredith. Amen. Also, apparently she said that she has been trying to get Bon Appetit, or she was trying to get Bon Appetit to hire her for like 2 straight years. And then finally she built her own platform. She's like, okay, well, I went and built my own thing. And now you're basically trying to like take my ideas. So I guess the concept, obviously, the name, they're all very similar. Do I think Condé Nast is aware of Meredith's series, or was aware when they decided to launch their own? I do. I do actually think they were. I think they have a legal team that would have done that due diligence that Meredith was kind of calling for. I think that due diligence was done. I just think at the end of the day, they knew that they could get away with this. If there's no trademark, obviously they have a big legal team behind them at Condé Nast. Like, they have so many resources. They recognized that the benefits would be worth the risk. I don't know if they factored in her sharing this on TikTok, because it's gone pretty viral and she is like quite famous. I don't know. That part is interesting to me. And I do think that's the mentality of media in general, because when I worked in mainstream media, like we would have trainings, like legal trainings and things, and that would always be the advice that the legal counsel would give us is, you know, when you're publishing anything about like public figures, if there's imagery involved, like even when you have like Getty subscriptions and stuff, like whenever you are covering anything that is about a brand, someone else, whatever, like obviously there is always risk involved. So basically the way you have to look at it in media is, you know, would the risk, or is this risk worth the payoff, which is, I guess, traffic, PR, money, whatever it is. And you do get taught, you know, little, not loopholes, but I guess like tricks of the trade to get around certain things, you know, like never use a paparazzi picture. You know, always use, if you're going to publish a photo of a celebrity and you don't take it from Getty or one of the subscriptions that you have, like take it from their Instagram where it's like a selfie. Never take a photo that looks like it has been taken by someone else, because, you know, they could sue you for that. Like a celebrity is likely not going to sue you for taking a selfie off their Instagram, things like that. But yes, I think unfortunately, they probably knew that there was nothing that Meredith could really do like legally to prevent them from using the name and the concept. I don't think they necessarily copied her. Like, I don't think they intentionally copied her. I think they probably did come up with a similar concept themselves. I think they knew about the name. They probably knew about her series, but I think at the end of the day, they came up with a similar idea and they didn't really care. That's my theory on that. Okay, the next story that I have for you guys is that Avery Woods is facing backlash for her new podcast episode with Harry Jowsey. Okay, influencer Avery Woods is in hot water after releasing a new episode on her podcast, Cheers, featuring Harry Jowsey, in which she made comments, which I guess were meant to be jokes, about Jesus punishing people sexually who have Bible verses in their bios, but also then send mean DMs and comments to influencers. I know that's incredibly specific, but that is literally what she said. And she also made a joke about the fact that her lady parts are intact because she had C-sections and not vaginal births. There were also a host of other things you could kind of criticize this podcast for. I don't know. In my opinion, I don't know. Like, I don't know Avery. I don't follow her. I have never really listened to her on any like podcast or anything like that. So I don't know what her personality is normally like. This honestly all really, really surprised me. It's like kind of very opposite of what I thought she was like. However, some of the other criticism, like I said, I don't know if this is normal for her, but she was very like flirty, I guess, with Harry. And some people were saying like, is this girl trying to get like a divorce? But yes, so Avery's podcast is hosted on the Unwell Network by Alex Cooper, and the episode has since been re-edited. Avery did respond to the backlash in a TikTok.
My podcast is a comedy podcast, and there are jokes that I should not make that cross lines, and I made a joke that crossed a line, and I'm so sorry. I have been very, very open about religion in general. You know, David's father was a pastor, and we've talked very openly on my podcast multiple times about our beliefs and why we believe those things, but I never, ever want to bash religion, bash someone's beliefs. We have so many people in our lives that are religious people and faithful people, and I 100% support them and love them no matter what. First of all, fuck, I need media training. I don't even know what I'm doing right now. I'm just like looking out the window because I just feel awful. The episode that I did with Harry was scripted. These were questions that were, written by producers, and I probably should have spoken up and maybe dimmed it down a bit, and I chose not to. When the camera turns on, it's entertainment, right? Like, we are both podcast hosts, strictly for entertainment. There's nothing else going on. I need to remember that my sarcasm and my comedy is not going to be the same as other people's, and there's certain lines that I shouldn't cross, and I cross those lines, and I apologize.
This statement has not been very well received. A lot of people are making jokes about how she's basically like, this is who I am. Thanks. I feel like there's a couple things happening here. First, I've seen people say this feels like OG, like call her daddy type of like reaches, reaching for like that joke, like reaching for that viral moment, that like shock value. And I can totally see that happening here. However, she also said in her apology that the episode was scripted. So that's where that's not like lining up for me, because for sure, like, especially when you're in the early days of podcasting, I actually don't know when she started podcasting, but when you're in the early days and you're kind of like bantering with someone and you do want to have that like electric kind of chemistry, you want to have those moments that like you guys are just like laughing and you make the audience laugh and it's like so much fun, and like I totally get it, things can get carried away. It's like when you're in a group with all your friends and you guys are like feeding off of each other and like the jokes and stuff just get like weirder and more obscure. And there's this element of you playing the jester, and everybody is kind of like looking at you and you're like the center of attention and like whatever. You guys all know what that feels like. And it can feel like that on a podcast, especially because you're trying to produce something that's like entertaining. So I totally understand that things can get away from you. What I don't understand is you also can edit a podcast. So I'm surprised that these things made it in. And I am surprised for her to say that it's scripted. I don't think that this episode sounded scripted to me. I think what probably she means is like they are given an outline. I would be surprised if that Jesus joke or even that joke about the C-section, like I would be very surprised if those things were like written in the script by production. Avery's always in some weird shit. Like the only other thing that I know about her is that she went viral when she made that. Actually, I know two things, and they're both about her daughter, unfortunately. The first is that she apparently made a series. I didn't see this, but she apparently made a series where she was like sharing embarrassing milestones or elements of her daughter's day all the time. And she's like 2 and 3 and just, I don't know, just like sharing way too much about her daughter. And I guess that was like a series. And then the other thing is, you guys probably remember this, but she went viral where she was like talking about, this was last year, I think, where she was talking about being a boy mom. She was like, I love my daughter, but, and then she's like, there's nothing like being a boy mom and blah, blah, blah. And she was in her car. I'm sure you guys know that video. People lost their minds at that video. Fair enough. So yeah, she's always, I guess actually now with all of that context, like when I'm thinking about it now, maybe this stuff doesn't surprise me as much. She remains questionable. Okay, the last story that I have for you guys, this is an interesting one. So a scroller requested that I cover the latest Melanie Martinez situation. So of course I want to oblige whenever we get a request directly from you guys, if it kind of aligns or makes sense or I have capacity or whatever, like I want to do it for you guys. I think that this is the latest situation. I'm unclear because this happened last month, but I'll still give you guys the information. Hopefully this is what the scroller was after. Hopefully this is like what you guys were after. But I did want to issue a trigger warning because this story will cover sexual assault and allegations of CSAM. Okay, so we covered Melanie Martinez one other time on this podcast. I'll give you guys a really high-level recap of who she is and why we covered her, because I think it provides a bit more context for the rest of the story. So Melanie is a 29-year-old singer-songwriter who rose to fame after appearing on The Voice in 2012. In July 2024, so July of last year, Melanie was embroiled in controversy when her former best friend and fellow singer Timothy Heller took to TikTok to share her experience being, quote, effectively run off the internet after she opened up on Twitter in 2017 about experiencing alleged abuse by Melanie. So in 2017, Timothy opened up on Twitter about alleged abuse from Melanie. And then in July of just this past year, 2024, she talked about what it was like to open up on Twitter about that and what happened after that on a TikTok. Okay, so in this 2017 allegation, Timothy tweeted a notes app post in which she referred to Melanie as her best friend, but said over the course of their friendship, Melanie's, quote, power and control over me grew and grew. She said during a sleepover one night, Melanie repeatedly asked Timothy if she would sleep with her, and Timothy said no. Timothy also had a boyfriend at the time. She then said that she was molested by Melanie. According to Sam Hargrave for The Direct, Melanie responded to Timothy's claims at the time. She said, I am horrified and saddened by the statements and story told tonight by Timothy Heller. What she and I shared was a close friendship for a period of time. We came into each other's lives as we were both starting our careers as artists, and we tried to help each other. We both had pain in dealing with our individual demons and the new paths we were forging, but I truly felt like we were trying to lift each other up. She ended her statement with, she never said no to what we chose to do together. And although we parted ways, I am sending her love and light always. This saga spawned a hashtag Melanie Martinez is over party on Twitter, and fans began getting rid of their merch and posting all of that online. However, amid these claims, Melanie's fans worked very hard to invalidate Timothy's claims. And then I guess what happened is kind of the pendulum swung the other way. So, hashtag Melanie Martinez was over. And then because her fans were working overtime to invalidate Timothy, then, the hate kind of went towards Timothy, and her social media was absolutely flooded. So in the TikTok that she posted in July 2024, Timothy talked about how speaking up against Melanie led to her family and friends being doxxed. She lost all sponsorship opportunities, and she stopped pursuing a music career. Okay, so all of that was the last time that I had heard about Melanie, but now it seems that there is more controversy around her, and as far as I can tell, it is also controversy that is resurfaced again from several years ago. But last month, social media users started debating whether the cover art from Melanie's 2015 single Soap was inappropriate or not. I won't show the cover art because I personally do think it's questionable, but essentially it's a cartoon drawing of a little girl in a bathtub crying with a bar of soap shoved in her mouth. The bubbles are covering everything, but you get the idea. This discourse came about after a TikTok questioning the cover art went viral. Off the back of this, some people started looking into the coloring book that was released to promote the album. So it was called Crybaby Coloring Book, and this was released in 2016. Crybaby is the album that the single Soap is off of. And yeah, the book depicts the story of that same girl that we saw in the bathtub, and there are apparently several images in this book that users have found to be quite disturbing. So I don't really know anything about Melanie Martinez, but what I do know is when we covered this story back in July, and I was just sharing, what Timothy had said, what the history was from all of the articles and research I had done, and the fan base that came into our TikTok and YouTube comment sections, DMs, it was actually, I think we even got emails. It was really intense. So Melanie has an incredibly strong fan base still even now who are going to she's still making music and stuff, but who will go to bat for her for things that happened even so long ago. And I truly fear for the people that are taking to TikTok to talk about this past content, this past cover art, all of this stuff. She just seems to be one of those people that has such an incredibly dedicated culty fan base. I think maybe because she's kind of a unique and quirky personality. But wow, that is what I know about Melanie Martinez. So to the scroller that asked me to cover her, I think that is the most recent story on Melanie Martinez. I couldn't find anything else. It only just happened a couple of weeks ago, so I assume that is, but I hope it was, and I hope that gave you a bit of insight into what was happening. All right, guys, well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening to Mini Scroll. I love you guys. Please rate, review, and subscribe. It helps us so much. It helps us grow. Please star rate us on Spotify. We're trying to get to 1,000 star ratings. I love you guys, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.